For those that either didn't watch or are not on Twitter and not following this, and you're just joining us, well, welcome. That's pretty cool. I appreciate you doing that. I think most of us have seen the news that has come out with Paul Tenorio and The Athletic reporting that Gregg Berhalter is set to return and reascend to his position as the head coach. That's a rumor right now. Nothing has been ultimately said from U.S. Soccer. But, and I haven't looked at Twitter here because I'm concentrating on this, but that's the rumor. And let's just go as if this, where there's smoke, there is fire. And there's a lot of different people and credible people that are reporting on this. And so let's just kind of gameplay this out, Mosse, right? So here we are. We're sitting in June of 2023, and we have been, 6 months removed from the last we saw of Gregg Berhalter as the head coach of the U.S. national team. In those 6 months, we all know the drama that has ensued, which is the reason why. Because by all accounts, all right, this was a fait accompli. This was a done deal. He was going to continue on as the head coach following the World Cup. And certainly there are people that agree with that, disagree with it, like Gregg, don't like Gregg. I think in totality, if you look at everything that he did, it can absolutely be justified for him to have continued on and to quote unquote deserve to continue on. I am and have long been of the opinion that coaches should not have multiple cycles. And I was of that opinion even when it came to Gregg Berhalter following what I think is a successful, very successful, and historically and statistically successful run as the national team coach. But then all the craziness came out, and then all the drama came out. And I changed my opinion, and I will readily admit and raise my hand that it was relative to what I felt was right and what I felt was fair. And what I felt I was seeing was a good man being wronged. And I don't like to see that. I don't think that that is what the United States Soccer Federation should ultimately represent. I don't think that is what America should ultimately represent. And I know I'm talking much more big picture, and I know I'm getting romantic about it. And I know there's a lot of people listening that say, yeah, but it's just about winning and getting the best person for the job. Well, if this is to be believed, this rumor, then obviously the United States Soccer Federation and those in charge believe that he is the best person for the job. And having gone through 6 months, including an investigation when it comes to Gregg Berhalter and all of the shenanigans and craziness that happened behind the scene with the Reinas, and by their own account, having interviewed many coaches, maybe Patrick Vieira, maybe we'll find out ultimately who got interviewed, but oftentimes you don't necessarily know. But the Federation has been pretty open with the fact that they have gone about a process, and one that, let's be honest, was probably much more robust given the last time around, and that they have come right back around to Gregg Berhalter. I saw Clint Dempsey on air tonight, and I'm sure others, that it kind of seemed flabbergasted that this has happened. But it makes kind of sense to me. I'm not happy that it took this long, but I get why it ultimately took this long, because you had to go through this whole process because of the craziness and the disgusting things that ultimately happened. And so that I can understand. Have we wasted 6 months? I think the Federation would probably say no, because we did our due diligence and we talked to other people, and we still came back around to the conclusion that what we had intended to do all along was the right thing. But now they're fortified with 6 months, well, not 6 months, but certainly fortified with a whole lot more information than they had. And they got to feel probably pretty good about what they did to get this. That's not going to satisfy people that don't like Gregg Berhalter. That's not going to satisfy people out there that think that we should have, quote unquote, aimed higher. And that's certainly not going to satisfy people that think that we should have just done that 6 months ago, and now that we have wasted six months. So if this ends up being the case tomorrow, Mosse, I am okay with it. And in a certain way, because of what I said, it, for lack of a better word, it restores my faith in humanity and what is ultimately decent. I don't know, Mosse, what do you think about this if this ends up being true?
I am absolutely shocked I have to eat crow because I said several times on the podcast last few months that while they kept insisting that Gregg Berhalter was still a candidate, he really wasn't. There was no chance he was going to get rehired. And for me, once Ernie Stewart and Brian McBride left the picture, and then you brought in a total outsider and Matt Crocker, an Englishman that you got from Southampton, I thought there was no chance that to me signaled a fresh start, going in a different direction. And the fact that they've circled all the way back around to rehiring Gregg Berhalter, I am absolutely stunned at this news. And it was a crazy last 24 hours in the Gregg Berhalter world, because there were reports he was definitely going to be the Club America coach and was headed to Mexico to agree to that deal. And then last night you started hearing, no, he pulled out of that because he started to get wind that he was going to be the U.S. coach.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.